Hi Miles, thanks for the footage. Just a quick look at the swing overall before we get on to some suggested changes, particularly face on, based on what you said in your message on Twitter earlier about turning, tilting, and extending at an appropriate rate. I think based on the work we've done, I think you're doing a pretty good job from P1 to P4. The amount that the head now moves and the eyes and the neck tilts, if you will, has reduced dramatically. I mean, the eyes used to be over here at one point, so there's definitely a reduction in the amount of turn, or the rate at which you turn. Now, how much you continue down that route would be a personal preference. I would say at the minute you've got that in a position that would allow you to play golf pretty consistently. Would it be my ideal? I'd like to see you sort of turn a little bit less, maybe like this, for a shorter iron, just so that I know when you come to a drive and you add a little bit of extension, you're in a more controlled position, a more balanced position. But overall, pretty happy with the move from P1 to P4. One of the issues I've got with yourself would be the sort of rate and the way your head tends to drop back during the hit. At setup, the camera's on the move there as you make your backswing, so I'll ignore that last line. Setup, I'd like to see you turn both feet out approximately 30 degrees. This right knee is kinking in a little bit too much, and that foot position is making it a little bit too difficult for you to turn. Consequently, there's a little bit of movement off the ball at that point. Left shoulder levels out. As you try and put some turn in, you lose your ability to turn on a tilted angle. So a little bit of a leveling of the shoulders that can be tidied up with a little bit of a change to your foot flare and a little bit of a change to your right knee at P1. As I said, I'm not a huge fan of the way the head drops back. That's your way of, when we look at the swing from down the line, the head dropping back and the right shoulder dropping down and underneath is your way of keeping the club on the inside. What we can also see is this right knee thrusting out towards the golf ball. So I'm seeing a player who is definitely sliding, definitely extending. But when we look at we look at the exit on the way through there, high rate of closure, your ability to turn consistently through the hit, particularly as you come into impact, is compromised because you're extending at such a high rate and sliding at such a high rate. Things that we've done in the past that would help with that would be swinging to the top, stopping, holding it for a count of three, so that you've then got to swing down in a more sequenced manner. So I would say the linear component of this swing is pretty strong. The extension, the pushing up out of the ground from P6 onwards is pretty apparent. When we look at it from down the line, we can see that as the right heel lifts and the hips tuck under, you can see the butt working away from the line and the head working away from the line. So there's definitely that extension in there. The thing that it's sort of lacking until very late in the piece is the rotational aspect. So I would say we're using the numbers before. I'm seeing a player here who's sliding at 5, extending at 5, and then turning at 3. So we need to introduce a little bit of rotation in there through the hip. Don't necessarily want to sacrifice what's going on from P4 to P5. I like the way you're working that right elbow, sort of rotating that externally, right shoulder just ever so fractionally back, allowing the club to shallow, so the hands are working outwards, the club's working back and under. It's a really good move. From there onwards, we should definitely see a continuous turn through the ball. And we can see that it's at that point the head starts to tilt back, the hips start to tuck under. As a result, the wrist angles come out pretty quick, and your ability to control the way the arms come through the hip is being compromised. High rate of closure, you'd have trouble with controlling your loft at impact. Some shots you'd pop up in the sky, other shots you'd drive low and left. Shot pattern could be erratic, pushes to the right, quick hooks or drags to the left. But again, we see a high rate of extension, right heel popping up, butt tucking under, head coming back. We also see a high rate of slide, so that's the head working back, particularly from sort of P5 to P6. So remember, the shoulders should be turning down and around on a tilted angle throughout the downswing. Once the right shoulder starts to drop too much too soon, the head translates back. And that's what we're seeing. Nice move from P4 to P5. I like what I'm seeing at P1 to P4. Little tweak to the setup as discussed. From P5 onwards, head starts to drop back. From down the line, hips start to tuck under, head starts to come away from the wall, etc, etc. So we need to tidy the move up from P5 onwards. I'm just going to get a drill up here that I was doing with a young man who suffered with a very similar move. I'm not going to concentrate mainly on the down the line aspect of things. I just found young David on here. Okay, so this was David at the start of his lesson. Pretty good position at P4, a little bit across the line. Drops the club under, similar to yourself. And then at this point, the right heel starts to lift. The wrist angle comes out. The arms get thrown away. The rate of closure is very high. And the exit's through the lead shoulder. And very similar to what we're seeing with yourself. Okay, the shot pattern I'd played with Dave in a Pro-Am just before this lesson, and the shot pattern was sort of a very big high draw that would occasionally turn into a push or a hook, so it was quite a substantial shape of shot. The change we made was simply by lowering the exit. We put a bar 6 inches to the left of his lead shoulder, level with the lead shoulder. And the only thing I've asked him to do at this point is to feel like he's swinging to about P3. You don't have to go all the way back. And then got to keep the arms under the bar on the way through. Exits lower, right heel doesn't lift as much. I'll get the other swing up for you in a sec. You can see that from P4 to P5, it makes a very similar move. Hands work outwards, club works under, right elbow externally rotates, right shoulder externally rotates. But the act of keeping the club and the arms under the bar encourages the torso to keep turning, which in turn lowers the exit substantially and introduces some much needed rotation into that goal swing. So you can see the similarities there with what you see with Mike Bennett, Grant Waite and co, compared to yourself. Very high exit, heel popping up, moving forward. If I just put his original swing on to the right for you to compare, So this would be more typical of what you'd see with yourself. Right elbow, right arm, club working nicely to P5. But then too much extension. Now, the only advice here on the left is to miss the bar. Keep the arms under the bar. That straight away gets the sweet spot in line with the hands a little bit more. You can see the chest is opening up a little bit more. Instead of the wrists uncocking and throwing the club under, like you see on the right, the sweet spot continues to work down the plane line. Right heel pops up less, exit substantially lower, as is the exit. So here we've introduced some rotation continuously through the hip, and on the right, the rotation, whilst it is happening, is not happening enough, and it is not continuous enough. So with David on the right, there's a lot of slide, there's a lot of extension, but not enough rotation. It's the rotation that brings the club back in on the arc rather than being flung outwards, which is typical of someone hitting pulls and pushes, etc. So when you're out there working, get the bar 6 inches to the left of the lead shoulder, level with the middle of the lead shoulder, and go ahead and work on lowering the exit. When you're doing that as a drill, I don't want to see you altering P1 to P4 too much. So what I'd like to see you do is sort of make maybe P3 swings. So back to P3 and then under the bar. So I'm just going to sort of put the bar where it would be. I usually tape a couple of alignment canes together, prop it in the umbrella holder at the golf bag or something. So we'd have a bar coming out the bag in front of the lead shoulder, and about this point your goal is to go to P3. That's as long as you need to go back. I don't really want you changing too much about what's going on. I like P4. I like your transition. So let's say that now is your backswing. So you've gone to P3 on the way back. And then all you're going to do now is swing down and keep the arms beneath the bar. And you can see when you're doing this, midway through, bang, your arms would hit that bar. It encourages a little bit more rotation. It starts to curtail the amount and rate at which you extend and slide. And it controls the way the arms orbit the body. And as a result, controls the way the club face closes down. So it's a nice, easy drill that you can use. It's a great visual when you're out in a tournament. So again, it's something that you can use in the real world when you're out playing, rather than just when you're on the range. For you at this moment in time, it would help tidy things up from P5 onwards. I like the changes you've made from P1 to P4. I'd want to see a slight change in your foot position, and consequently your right knee, etc. I like P4. I think it could be tidier, but it's good enough without a shadow of a doubt to go out there, trust it and play. But what I really want to see is, after that nice transition, at this point in the swing now, we know we've got to have the linear move. The hip slide's continuous, but also the hips have got to be opening up. For the extension and the hip slide to do their job throughout the swing, the hips must continuously turn. When a player's hips continuously turn and chest continuously turns, the shoulder tilts don't get as steep coming through the ball, and the exit is more mid left bicep. So hands and club exiting here is a result of other things. It's something that we all try and attain, but sometimes we can't really get a feel for it. So bar to the left of the lead shoulder, and away you go. Hit as many balls as you want. Please send me some footage as you're doing the drill so that I can make sure you're doing it correctly, and keep me posted on your progress. Looking forward to watching this one progress over the coming months.